didn't know what to ready. If everyone can please find a seat on the bench, it is time for the Tim Wiseman workshop. Thank you very much, Tim Wiseman, for teaching us all these awesome things today. Check. Okay. So, my philosophy of air hockey is that offense is the most important thing. And, if you've ever listened to Danny Hines talk about air hockey, he's going to say the opposite. He's going to say that defense is the most important thing. We disagree. And I'll tell you why. Because I've seen over, 40 years of competing in air hockey, I've seen a lot of people become national world champion that had terrible defense. They were able to do it because they had great offense. And so I think in air hockey, offense is just more important. And if you think about it, when are the times that you start having trouble in competition? One of the most important times is when you get nervous, right? You feel the pressure. You kind of seize up. You get in your head. These types of things. Okay. If you have a really powerful offense, you're going to apply that pressure to your opponent and force them to fight against the pressure. And so, in a way, that makes your defense better. Because now they're feeling pressure and they're having a more difficult time executing what they want to execute, which means they're not going to be putting much pressure on your defense. So, offense number one, and not only will it help you win because you're going to score, but it's going to help you defend better because your opponent's going to be feeling pressure. All right? Developing a great offense starts with puck control. And you've probably seen, if you've ever gone to the center line, I had some early videos where I showed some drills on how to develop puck control. If you think about it, if you don't have puck control, you really don't have anything. Because if you can't make the puck do what you want it to do, just forget it. You might have a brilliant plan. You might know that your opponent has a weakness to the cut shot. If you can't hit an accurate cut, it doesn't matter. So the most important thing, in my opinion, is to develop puck control first. And if you're not a master, if you're not a magician with the puck, you have to get there. That's number one. So you do that through a number of patterns. I guess I need this back on. A number of patterns that I think are really helpful to learn puck control. And I'm sure everybody in here has seen all of these, but I'll show them anyways. So speed bag. Speed bag is just simply take the puck like this. And you just keep doing this. You try to go a little faster, but you want to go to the speed that that for 10 minutes. Next pattern, across the table. Now, across the table is very similar to the speed bag, but it's more difficult. And you're basically just going to the corner. Like that. This is really difficult because if you're off by just a hair over the course of the length of the table, it's going to get really exaggerated. So that's a great one to do. I think one of the reasons this in particular is really helpful is because it's going to teach you touch. How to just barely slice at that puck, just get a little bit on it so it does what you want it to do. It's excellent to develop the ability to hit great cut shots. And there's circle drift. It's real simple. Everybody's probably seen this before. You do the reverse circle drift. But do these patterns 5-10 minutes each when you're getting ready to play, before you're ready to play. And then the last one is tap tap, where you're gonna take the puck, you're gonna go back and forth, like this, then you're gonna go to the opposite direction on the other side of the puck, and you can go back and forth, each side. All right, so develop puck control. All right, so how do you have great offense? The way I see it, you need to have a credible threat. You need at least one shot that your opponent's going to have a real hard time blocking. Maybe it's your best shot. Maybe you're great at across straight. All right, start there. You need to execute it until you're able to get it in. Maybe your opponent reads it well, so you have to deliver it a little differently, but ultimately, you need to start with one shot that you're really good at. And usually, I would say that you want that to be a power shot. And the reason I think you want it to be a power shot is because you want it to make an impact on your opponent, psychologically. You want them worried about it. And so, I'll just go with the cross straight. If I power in across straight 3 times, now my opponent's thinking about that cross straight. And that's what you want. A lot of people will say, well, now they're going to try to block it. They're going to block it. Well, I think that's what you want them to do. You want them to adjust, because once they start to adjust, now the opposite side of the goal is open. All right? So then it becomes just sort of a rock, paper, scissors match. So you had a very powerful shot. You got them thinking about that shot. They start to react to try to block that shot, adjust to block that shot, and now you have a soft underbelly somewhere else. Then you go to the other side. Now they're not sure what to do when they see that setup. That's where you want them, and then you can kind of just go back and forth. Have a credible threat. Start with one shot, and then drill your opponent on it until they start to adjust. All right. Other thing on developing a great offense is deceiving the opponent. There's a couple of different kinds of deceptions. I think probably at the core of deceiving your opponent is a time delay. And what a time delay is, the way I think of it, is it's the amount of time between when you are in what I call an execute position and when you actually hit the puck. A time delay is not this. It's not tap, now this is time delay. That's not a time delay. A time delay is tap, I'm in an execute position, that's when the time delay starts. You have to be in a position such that your opponent feels threatened. If I tap the puck like this, and I'm going like this, the opponent never feels threatened. They only feel threatened when I'm like this. Now, not everybody sets up and gets into an execute position the same way. and that's fine. You may have, like, I'll give you, for instance, Con Cummings. The way he sets up and then delivers his shot is different. He doesn't get into this position, that's fine, but he gets into this position. So you just have to know what the execute position is for you. Okay, so that's one. The other way to deceive your opponent is by using complementary shots. We sort of alluded to this with incredible threat. So you're hitting across straights. Complementary shot for the cross straight is going to be a left wall under. Well, for a right-handed player, it's going to be a left wall under. So if I'm doing really great at that cross straight, I probably don't want to pair that so much with a right wall under. It's not to say you can't do it, but it's not going to be as powerful or as deceptive as pairing it with a shot that goes to the opposite side of the goal. A couple other deceptions, pump fakes. One thing a lot of folks, I think, get wrong about pump fakes is they think it's just kind of like going like this. I think what you really need to do when you do a pump fake is you got to get in that execute position, and then you have to really lunge at that puck like this, because you want it to feel like a shot. You want it to look like a shot. It has to be exaggerated. And then shot speed. Everybody loves getting in an off-speed shot. It feels great to get an off-speed shot in on your opponent, right? It's just like, ooh. All right, well, off-speed's deceptive because it's just like a changeup in baseball, right? I keep doing that power cross, that power cross, that power cross, and then I get a nice touch cut. Right? It pairs well because the speed of the shot allows the other player to pop out of the way, or you're hitting power right wall under, and then you hit a nice soft right wall over. Okay? So those are all types of ways to deceive your opponent. Another thing about offense, have multiple attacks. So if you've ever been playing and you were doing really well, you were scoring, everything seemed to be going great, and then it wasn't anymore, and you couldn't figure out what the heck's going on. I would say a lot of times that's because your opponent is now just sort of reading what you're doing. They've keyed in finally, and they are able to see the motions that you're doing, the setups you're doing. So what I would say is that that's the reason that you need to have other attacks. Air hockey defense is very visual. All of it's very visual, but to defend, we have to start moving before the puck is actually coming at us because it's just too fast. And so we're reading with our eyes, almost unconsciously, and we're just kind of taking all the information in and then reacting. So you have to give the other player different looks, different things to see. So you may be doing a great right to center drift, and then it's not working anymore. Well, maybe you need to go to a circle drift for a while, or maybe you need to do an L drift or just a horizontal drift, something, a line drift. There's all sorts of things you can do, but I would say make sure you develop more than one. And I would say most everybody probably has a comfort zone where there's a certain setup they like and they do most of their attacks on. That's great. Try to develop something else, because when you find that you're being defended all of a sudden and you weren't before, it's probably why. It's not as deceptive anymore because they see it. And then this last note here is what I said earlier, which is your defense doesn't have to be as strong when you're scoring on your opponent left and right, because your opponent now feels the pressure of every time they don't have the puck, they're getting scored on. They feel a lot of pressure, they need to score. And when they feel that pressure, they're not gonna execute as well. So you can help your defense by just improving your offense. Those are sort of my, quick, what I suggest. You wanna develop your offense, do those things. What types of thoughts or questions does anybody have?
I want to say a historical comment that this man invented the circle drift. Now, we played for what, 10 years before he developed the circle. You were not playing 10 years,
Right.
but many of us were. And we never thought to do the circle drift. Can you imagine that? You gotta take it for granted. But one day we go, and he's doing something that gives him an infinite number of points on the circle to take the shot. So now we're having to defend almost infinite number of possibilities. But before that point, people would just, drift it to the left, to the right, come up with a cast. And that's not an infinite number because it's a straight line coming at you for a slant. But that happened. I remember sitting out from, not texting those guys, but I remember calling people on the phone and saying, this young guy, he's come up with something where it's impossible to know when on that circle the puck's gonna be struck. And I remember how amazing that was.
Yeah.
My bottom line point is, air hockey has many possibilities. We haven't thought of them all.
This is true.
But that was a revolutionary development.
Yeah. Who else?
Well,
Got a
that
question?
like a loaded position or whatever.
Execute position.
Yeah, execute position. How do you manage like where you're shooting it from the puck? Because sometimes, far left, you might feel like you can only get to one shot there.
Yeah, no, I think what I would say to that is that you're gonna have to develop, I should say this, I should back up. Another piece of offense which goes with what you're talking about is, I think you've got to pay attention for yourself on where you start the puck and where you hit the puck, positionally. So, think about watching yourself play, like go back on videotape, and pay attention to where you actually tapped it from. Did you start it right here? Did you start it here? Sometimes you started here and it didn't work well, sometimes you started it here and it worked well. Pay attention to that. It's actually super important, okay? Because this allows you, if you start it far back here, you have more time to get into that execute position and then pause and let it go to where you're most comfortable executing that shot from. And you're right, like if I'm right here with the puck, I'm gonna have a lot less options than if I try to hit it right here. So, is that kind of?
Yeah, just like, getting into it sooner, I guess.
Yeah, so like if you're trying to use time delays well, think of Vince Soseda. He's a perfect example of this. When Vince taps the puck, he instantly goes like this. He instantly gets into an execute position and then follows the puck. That's what I'm talking about. And that gives him a lot of room to maneuver, room to play. It makes it much more difficult for the opponent to determine, to time, to guess when he's going to actually hit the puck. I just think that's super important offensively. And I think it's one of the reasons why I would say Vince has got one of the best offenses ever. So. What else? Yes.
You ever, as you're going through your offense, and you're going to take a series of shots, do you ever read the defense?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, he's asking, is it good to kind of like pay attention to the defense a little bit, or maybe a lot, I don't know. But I think definitely you should pay attention to it some. I think that you want to glance up every now and then and just get a feel for what you see, because if they're making adjustments on defense, you will probably see it. And it might be very subtle, but you may see openings that you didn't realize was there. So I think that is something you should be doing on offense. And Not a lot. Like, don't be like staring up like this, right? But glance up, you know, have a hat like this, you know, like Robert Hernandez. That's why he did it. So he could see, he'd be looking straight at your defense and you wouldn't know. You know?
That was gonna go along with my question, when you're making your shot, and I guess I try to gauge people, are they actually looking, following your shot through, or is the muscle memory just there, and you're just looking at one particular spot, and taking your shot, when you get yourself?
Yeah, I mean, the question is like, are you looking for a specific shot and determining to go after that shot, or are you just letting your muscle memory sort of determine it? And I think it's, probably won't like my answer, I think it's probably a little of both. You know, that your muscle memory is going to determine it because you've developed a certain pattern on your offense. You know, one thing I would say is I think you need to know what you're going to hit before you're going to hit it. There are other people that will say, no, just, you know, let yourself flow and just whatever happens. I don't buy it. I think you should have an intention, and it's easier to be accurate if you know what you're going for early. What else? Anything else? Your chance to figure out how to be the best offensive player.
So did you talk about, just the beginning, did you talk about front of the mallet compared to back of the mallet?
No, that's great stuff. So he's asking about position, hitting the puck positionally on your mallet, whether you hit it at the back of your mallet, the front of your mallet. I think it depends on you know, what shot you're going after. I think that over the mallet shots, like a right wall over for a right-handed guy, tend to be better on sort of the back of the mallet. And then a cut shot is like literally the very front of the mallet. Yeah. So yes, if you're having trouble learning a specific shot, that might be one of the reasons. It might be that you're just hitting it at the wrong spot on the mallet, just not as effective.
Is there anything you can do to develop the off speed to make it easier?
Is there anything to do to develop the off speeds? Yeah, I think it's what I talked about at the very beginning, is developing puck control, because it's developing touch, right? It's trying to think about what sport. Disc golf, so because of my head, you know, you have to have a certain amount of touch, and yeah, you can develop it by just doing that over and over. And I think the off speed is almost all touch. It's feel.
It's like throwing a baseball.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, just touch.
I could never throw a knuckleball, but I could throw a hard curveball slider.
Yeah.
Things I could throw.
But isn't off speed even possible, specifically for a straight, because you're not disciplined on defense?
Sure. I mean, yeah, he's saying, you know, isn't the off speed only possible because the defense is not being disciplined? And I say yes. However, you can forcibly make someone undisciplined on defense by powering in those right wall unders over and over and over, and then now just a nice little touch cut, right? It's almost impossible to not pull back if, you know, you've been trying to block that shot. Yeah.
What about the, like, so let's say my right wall is like power, my power can't, like, full power.
Right.
How much power would you think a standard cut shot has?
Well, I mean, yeah, it depends on the player, right? For me, it's like a half speed. It's just and again, that is all feel. And there's a time, obviously, in a specific setup that you want a power cut. That is a thing, but I think in general the cut is not the same speed as the power under. It shouldn't be.
Timeouts at 6-6.
Oh, okay, this is a great one. Okay, no, this is really good. In my opinion, a row and to make it 6-6, you should not be calling a timeout. You shouldn't, if they have a timeout, certainly they should be calling timeouts. But I would say, if you have momentum, you should not be calling a timeout. But that's, it's different for different people. Some people, the way they can keep their momentum is to take a breather. That's fine. But you know yourself. Does that answer? Is that kind of what you're talking about? Yeah. So the question, it was about, mindset, to be able to win, mindset to win at the highest level in the sport. And then it was also about, flow state and whether that is part of it or not. Yeah, I would say that developing the ability to get into a flow state is critical. And what I would say, we maybe think of that a little bit differently, but it's the ability and we talk about now the other Cummings. We talk about Colin Cummings now. Okay, he has the ability to be super ultra focused. The world is blowing up over here. He wouldn't know because this is all that exists in this moment, and that's where he's at. I think you have to develop that. And it's just like for any sport, is to figure out how to be in the here and now, in the moment, and let everything else fall away. Whatever you need to do to find that space, you only you know what you do for that. Yes. So basically, yeah. I would go into a mixture of that as well as this sense of everything is on the line in this moment. And I know that can make a lot of people be like, holy shit, I don't, there's too much pressure. But at least for me, it made me more focused. And I think this is just another thing about competition, air hockey in particular. 6-3, I think, is one of the most dangerous scores. And I think it's dangerous for the person who's up 6-3. I've seen so many times through the years that go the other direction. Because you're up 6-3, there's a tendency to let up, to relax, and kind of let down a bit. And then now the person gets 6-4, no big deal. It's okay. But now they just score now 6-5. Oh my God, that would suck if I lost this game. And then you start to tighten up, and then the 6-6, and then holy shit, I can't lose this game. I was up 6-3, and then you lose. So that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. I think you got to keep that sense of urgency. Everything's on the line in this moment. If you're not up 6-3, it has nothing to do with it. You just have to get this moment, this point. Anything else? All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Thank you, Photon Air Hockey Blitz. Later on.
you know why it's on live 4, but there's only one screen on there?
I saw that last week.
As opposed to the grid.
Did you do that, or did Pete probably do that remotely?
Pete did this remotely.
Okay, I know it's. Let me see.
You have to put all the apps again.
No, because if I do that, it hides just table 1. So I don't know. I don't know what this does. I'm just gonna call him. Hey Pete. Hey, the Streamlabs is on live 4, but it only has table 1 on it. I don't know how to fix that. Oh, okay. All right. All right. Okay, why didn't you just select table 1?
You know, well, nobody was here, so.
Hey, look, let me show you how to. You had it perfect, dude, before. Right there. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah. Look, so just table 1 solo.
Good?
And then I'll just give you and then live 4 is all of them. And if you want to pick any of the other tables by themselves, it's just right here.
Yeah, it's been so long, I forgot.
Alright, cool. Yeah, we fixed
We
it.
gotta change the things up.
What do you have to do?
What? Oh yeah.
What do they call it? What is this?
Weekly.
Point spot weekly.
Are you? Did you
7-6.
start the bracket yet? Did anybody start it?
I don't think so. I can get it started though.
Okay. So will you make sure you export it so I can pick it up over here? Thank you.
Should we end the stream and then do another one?
way Pete can
This
chop it.
Pete's not gonna chop it.
Huh?
Like, I don't think Pete's gonna chop it.